If it bothers you that badly that I'm covering this guy, or even this video, just pretend I'm talking about a Paper Mario fan on Reddit or something. I should probably start by telling everyone that I originally did not want to do this video. I didn't intend to make two Paper Mario commentaries back to back, so hear me out and I'll explain why this is happening. I've always wanted to do a Paper Mario commentary, and I knew the Haydock's 1000-Year Door video had recently been uncovered again, so I said screw it and decided to cover it because I thought it would make a fun video. Then, not long after I uploaded that commentary, somebody uploaded a Paper Mario video that managed to make Haydock's video look like Shakespeare by comparison. I was originally just going to let this video pass by because admittedly I felt kind of burnt out after the last one, and I didn't want to look like I'm just making videos to dunk on people for having supposedly bad Paper Mario opinions. But ultimately I changed my mind because I was bored, figured most people wouldn't care since I barely make commentaries anymore anyway, and I feel like this video needs to be properly addressed because the points, not trying to come off like I'm exaggerating, are pretty fucking bad. So why not just make one more? Before I continue on, I want to clear some things up because, again, I know how this fanbase acts regarding opinions and different viewpoints. I have no issues with this person or anyone liking Paper Mario Sticker Star, nor do I have issues with them preferring the newer Paper Mario games to the classic ones. They managed to find enjoyment out of a game I personally despise, and I genuinely applaud them for that. However, my actual issues with this video come from how poorly the presenter tries to argue their points while displaying an overall smug and pseudo-intellectual demeanor throughout the video, despite having questionable knowledge on the series they're talking about. Finally, this is the creator's first video, and I get the impression that this person might be a bit younger based on their personal experience with the series, but I am not trying to shame this person for making a video I disagree with, nor am I trying to dissuade them from making videos. I will make jokes and come off a bit sarcastic or snarky here and there, maybe a little harsh at times like many of these videos, but that's just how I generally present myself in my videos, and it more so represents my thoughts on the points or actions in the video, not what I think of the creator as a person. So again, I reiterate, do not harass anyone I talk about in my videos. Good, let's get started.
Modern Paper Mario is better than the old Paper Mario. And yes, I know how insane that sounds. How can a true Nintendo gamer like myself actually enjoy Sticker Star or Color Splash? Especially after Daddy Chuga Conroy said that Sticker Star was the worst game he has ever played.
Oh lord, this is gonna be a fun video. I've seen it insinuated several times that people only bash Sticker Star because of Chuga Conroy's hatred of the game, when he only became a talking point for his opinion on Sticker Star after he made that series pointing out his issues with the game a few years back. And people started shouting their distaste for it way longer before that. Hell, the reason Color Splash had such a violent reaction when it was revealed was because it looked like it was going to be a direct copy of Sticker Star.
It's been 20 fucking seconds and I'm already seeing Paper Mario Sticker Star 2. God fucking damn it.
Also, I haven't skipped or cut anything yet. This is how he starts the video, painting the detractors who disagree with him as not being able to form their own opinions and just taking them from someone more famous. Let this be the start of what to expect as we continue. Finally, just so we're all on the same page, from this point forward, I will be either speeding up or cutting and abridging certain points because the video is almost a half hour long and it's kinda goddamn boring because the guy doesn't do much to make the video engaging and talks the same exact way the whole video.
For those unfamiliar with the series, Paper Mario is a spin-off of the Mario franchise that originally had RPG roots but slowly transformed into an action-adventure series. For older fans who grew up with the series, this change has not been taken lightly, to the point where people call the first game to introduce these changes, Sticker Star, the worst Mario game of all time. As someone whose first Paper Mario game was Sticker Star, I might sound a bit nostalgia biased. However, keep in mind that I recently replayed the game for the 5th time, and I can assure you, Sticker Star is not a bad game. In fact, I'd argue it's a great game, and so are Color Splash and Origami King.
It's good that you can admit to being nostalgic and even a bit biased, so long as you don't let it cloud your judgment and you try to remain factual and try to understand the opposing viewpoints. Hopefully you all noticed by now, but I wouldn't be stopping the video to bring this up if he actually did this. Also sure hope he doesn't accuse the classic fans of being biased or blinded by nostalgia once in this video. I sure hope I'm not foreshadowing a very predictable and hypocritical talking point that I see a lot of modern Paper Mario fans use frequently.
But before I explain why those games are great, I want to discuss why I didn't care much for the first 3 Paper Mario games. One of the many reasons I'm not the biggest fan of the first 3 games is that they seem to lack creativity and innovation in terms of gameplay and style. I know how crazy it might sound for me to complain about the lack of creativity in the older games when the newer games can't give us a new character that isn't a generic red toad, but please let me explain. In many cases, less is more, and allow me to explain. The first Paper Mario plays just like any generic RPG, nothing particularly new or groundbreaking about it. You level up your party, enter turn-based battles, and use items to heal your party or enhance attacks. It's just a standard RPG that just happens to feature Mario characters in it. This isn't necessarily a bad thing. After all, the Mario series is iconic, and exploring the Mushroom Kingdom in an RPG format does sound interesting at the very least. However, in the first 3 games, the iconic Mario characters and creatures are often sidelined in favor of original characters. I've always found this to be a huge missed opportunity. Why even set these games in the Mushroom Kingdom if it doesn't feel like the Mushroom Kingdom? Yes, you can interact with Toads, Goombas, and Koopas. Don't get me wrong, there are some classic Mario enemies in at least the first 2 games, but they're either redesigned to all hell looking completely different or appear only briefly at the start of the game and never again.
So, which of these enemies are supposed to be redesigned to all hell? Because most of them look similar or the same. Only one of them looks drastic enough to be mistaken as a different enemy. Also, I can't see the rest of the image, thank you for that. Also, I honest to God have no idea what he's referring to when he's talking about characters only briefly appearing at the beginning and never again.
This is something I especially noticed while playing The 1,000-Year Door. It's like, while developing the first 3 games, they were embarrassed having this be a Mario game, and redesigned each iconic Mario creature to either look unrecognizable or just create their own creatures to replace what easily could have been a pre-existing Mario character.
Again, going back to this chart you showed half of, besides one enemy, which of these characters have been redesigned beyond recognition? They still look close to the point that they can't be mistaken for anything else. Also, adding original characters is bad. Yeah, good thing no other Mario games have made or featured new or exclusive characters outside of the generic stock Mario characters, before or during when the old Paper Mario games were released.
For example, in Chapter 4, you're introduced to Vivian, a ghost-like character. However, she looks nothing like a Boo, or really any recognizable Mario creature, and her character, she has a completely original design, which is a huge missed opportunity, because part of what makes Paper Mario so special, at least for me, is seeing how these iconic Mario characters are translated into this creative, papercraft world environment. Whenever I see new original creatures or characters in the first 3 Paper Mario games, I see a missed opportunity.
As I said in my last video, good for fucking you, but not everyone is you. You're acting like the old games never dived deep into the Mario cast at all. You had your typical Mario enemies that were standard, but obscure enemies like Fuzzy, Swoopers, Ninjas, and Dino Rhinos also made appearances long before the main series brought them back. Also, enemies from Yoshi's Island such as Bandits, Crazy Daisies, Little Mousers, Ravens, and Bumpties made appearances as well, with many of these barely appearing outside of the Yoshi spin-offs. The games did exactly as you claimed, they just decided to go on to add their own choice of characters to help make the settings unique.
The 1,000-Year Door and its original characters make it feel less and less like a Mario game. Why couldn't Vivian be a Boo? Why couldn't the X-Nauts be existing Mario creatures?
Well, I don't see any valid reason why Vivian has to be a Boo, even more so if you consider the previous game already had a Boo partner and several species were also rehashed in 1,000-Year Door with similar abilities. I especially don't see why the X-Nauts have to be already established characters considering we had games prior to the 1,000-Year Door that featured new villains. There's no reason Paper Mario can't or shouldn't either besides that very selective and arbitrary narrative you created solely for Paper Mario. If anything, I'd argue that Paper Mario should bring back the original characters. They can be used to demonstrate just how large the Mario universe is and provide a creative outlet to show what types of creatures and races exist outside of the Mushroom Kingdom and Bowser's Army. Yes, there's nothing wrong with taking pre-existing characters and using them for interesting scenarios, but sometimes adding or doing something unique only adds to the experience to help make it its own thing.
The Mario series is full of unique critters, both big and small, that Paper Mario could have used. Limitations often breed creativity because they force developers to think outside the box and reinvent old concepts. How cool would it be if the next Paper Mario game brought back Wart from Super Mario Bros. 2, or hell, any older Mario enemy that hasn't been given the Papercraft treatment yet?
Have the modern Paper Mario games ever brought a character back this drastic? How are you using a take like this to critique the older games when the newer ones aren't any better at the philosophy you seem to pull out of nowhere? We can sit all day and talk about how cool it would be if the dragon from Odyssey showed up in Paper Mario, but there's nothing to work off of if something like that has never happened.
I don't see why the first 3 Paper Mario games felt the need to create entirely new creatures when they had a wealth of existing ones to choose from. Again, missed opportunity. This issue is especially bad in Super Paper Mario, the 3rd game in the series. Aside from Mario, Peach, Luigi, and Bowser, nearly every other character is an original creation with an odd, blocky art style that doesn't fit Mario's usual aesthetic at all.
Yeah, almost like that was intentional or something, considering the game takes place in a completely different dimension separate from the Mushroom Kingdom.
When these games try to stray so far from the Mario characters, it feels as though the developers of the game intelligence system just wanted to make their own IP and were forced to make a Mario game. But instead of actually embracing the Mario roots, they try to hide it at every corner.
Well, that's definitely a huge-ass stretch for the crime of trying to do something unique. It's not like any other games like the Mario Land games or even the first Yoshi's Island to an extent added various things such as an odd cast of enemies and striking unique locations that would have felt out of place for Mario at the time. Hell, to give an example that fits better, Mario and Luigi Superstar Saga follows Super's tropes pretty closely, from adding a bizarre cast of characters that look odd to the Mario universe, to introducing a new kingdom that has a very striking and eccentric aesthetic that helps it stick out from the usual Mario fray. Is that bad too, or is it only bad if it's Paper Mario because Paper Mario aesthetic?
The gameplay of the first 3 games feels generic. Even setting aside the 3 games' gross underutilization of the Mario cast in this Mario spin-off game series, I find the gameplay of the first 3 games very uninteresting. The first game is just a generic RPG with an okay story, but given how many RPGs existed then and now, I'd rather pick up Final Fantasy than play a subpar RPG that just happens to feature some Mario characters in it.
I guess if you're going to strawman it in the most bare-bones way possible with clearly little interest in the game, yeah, it does sound like shit. Sure, the game doesn't do anything to help it stand out, like using action commands in battle, having faster-paced battles compared to the usually slower-paced RPGs, using badges to give you new attacks or bump your stats more easily, which allows for different customizations or even different playstyles if you know how to use them properly, allowing you to level up your health, flower, or badge points in any way you see fit, potentially making the game more challenging if you opt to not upgrade health or flower as much or at all, or use smaller numbers compared to traditional RPGs to make it easier for younger players to understand, who are more than likely to play this over Final Fantasy. Oh yeah, and speaking of which, Paper Mario and Final Fantasy are made for 2 different demographics. So no shit there's a chance you, somebody who seems to be in their late teens to early 20s, will likely find Final Fantasy more engaging.
Super Paper Mario ditches the RPG mechanics for a more traditional level-based system, but in my opinion, this makes it even worse. At least the previous 2 games were okay turn-based RPGs. Now, Super Paper Mario tries to be a 2D platformer, but controls much worse than any modern 2D Mario game, with RPG mechanics that drags out the pacing with excessive backtracking.
The hell does that even mean? The RPG mechanics drag out the pacing with excessive backtracking? Don't get me wrong, as someone who ended up liking Super, there are definitely some questionable level design choices that I feel don't get criticized enough. But how do the RPG mechanics affect this? Is it because it's story-driven, or is it the literal gameplay mechanics? I don't know, I'm just here for the ride!
For Paper Mario as a series to survive in the competitive gaming market, it clearly needed something new and original, Otherwise, it would always just be a subpar beginner RPG for children.
Again, he keeps harping on about how the games are supposedly just subpar, dumbed-down RPGs for children, and that's apparently bad because something Final Fantasy. By the way, I'm more of a Dragon Quest guy, but I digress. I may have dreamt this, but I swear there's another game series that's pretty much what he's describing, and it ended up becoming a cultural phenomenon that's still influential to this day. I can't put my finger on it, but I'm pretty sure Pokemon. It's Pokemon. One of the most famous video game franchises of all time, is literally an RPG with extremely simplistic mechanics to the point that children can understand it, while still having elements that allow hardcore players to engage with the game how they please. Your whole whinge about Paper Mario needing to change because of supposed competition in RPGs is complete nonsense and is just talking for the sake of talking.
Originally, Sticker Star was going to be another generic Paper Mario RPG. In fact, Shigeru Miyamoto himself said the game felt too similar to the Thousand Year Door, and told the developers to start over. He challenged them to create something truly unique, something that could only work in a game made out of paper. He also insisted that the game only use pre-existing Mario characters. This is how Sticker Star evolved from a standard RPG into a unique action-adventure that fully embraced its papercraft world and Mario universe.
Except the issue is that Intelligent Systems went way too far when taking in Miyamoto's criticisms. Yes, he did tell the developers to only use characters from the Mario world as much as possible, but there is nothing that indicates he wanted them to make Toads damn near the only friendly NPCs. Sure, he said the game didn't need a story, which is definitely something I disagree with, but he also didn't say make the plot and environments feel like a butchered version of New Super Mario Bros. Also, I know you're referencing the Iwata Asks interview everyone loves to talk about. Everyone and their mother knows about Miyamoto saying that the Sticker Star prototype was too similar to the Thousand Year Door, but nobody talks about the quote immediately after where Tanabe indicates that Miyamoto seemed to have no issue with the game being an RPG. To me, that quote indicates that Tanabe made the prototype, but didn't do anything unique to make it stand out from Thousand Year Door. Miyamoto criticized this choice, and Tanabe course-corrected by removing most of the RPG aspects, adding stickers, and started insisting that it's an action-adventure game. If anything, it still could have been an RPG. All Miyamoto asked was for the game to have its own identity, and Intelligent Systems took his words all the wrong ways.
For now, I want to defend one of the most disliked things about modern Paper Mario games, its story. The modern Paper Mario games, particularly Sticker Star and Color Splash, take a different approach to storytelling. While the first 3 games had grand, dramatic narratives, the newer titles focus on humor, charm, and smaller character-driven moments.
I mean, all of that existed in the older Paper Mario games too. The humor has always been a focus of this series. The charm in the older games came from the storybook structure and the pop-up book aesthetic from the first 2 games. And we're talking about small character-driven moments as if characters like Vivian, Bobbery, and Tippy aren't popular for those very reasons. You don't have to choose between a grand story or humor and character moments. You can very well have both.
A far better choice, in my opinion, and one that fits the world of Super Mario much more naturally. The plots of Sticker Star and Color Splash are straightforward. Bowser steals the royal stickers in Sticker Star and the big paint stars in Color Splash, prompting Mario to embark on an adventure to save the world from Bowser's evil plans.
Isn't that literally just the plot from Paper Mario 64? And you said the story was just okay with little to no explanation. For what it's worth, he will go on to bitch about how Mario games shouldn't have heavy stories, but Paper Mario 64's story is nowhere near as heavy as Thousand Year Door and Super, so it should be fair under what I've seen of your criticisms. If you want to be seen as a reputable critic, critique the games the same way, not by which one you like more.
This approach aligns more closely with Mario's roots. The franchise was never about deep, intricate narratives. It was about fun, engaging gameplay, and whimsical adventures. While the older Paper Mario games told interesting stories, some of their themes, like crime syndicates, existential crises, and world-ending catastrophes, felt out of place in a Mario game.
Damn, explains why I ended up so screwed up as an adult. Actually, that crime syndicate fits perfectly in your description of taking already existing Mario characters and putting them in interesting and unique scenarios. Something you act as if the older Paper Mario games never ever do. Also, they're literally played up for comic relief and aren't treated that seriously. How are they out of place in a Mario game?
Miyamoto himself pushed for a shift away from these darker tones, favoring a style that emphasized visual humor, clever writing, and engaging world interactions. And honestly, it works. I get that the classic Mario must save Peach plot might seem boring to some, but do we really need more than that? It's a Mario game, after all. If you're expecting something drastically different, maybe the world of Super Mario just isn't for you.
You know, this fit of self-righteousness about unique characters and plot lines is a lot less impactful if you remember we just got a 2D Mario game that ditched the Mario Saves Peach plot and added a ton of creative characters and situations, as well as a new Mario and Luigi game that's probably one of the most unique story-driven Mario RPGs in recent years. So that begs the question, who died and gave you the authority to tell others what they should expect in a Mario game based on an outdated creative outline that even Miyamoto doesn't seem to enforce that strictly anymore?
I mean, the so-called best paper Mario games, TTYD and Super Paper Mario, had death, torture, ethical dilemmas about dating a computer, and even a subplot where Mario literally ends up in hell. Do we really need such grandiose plots in a Mario game?
Maybe I'm just a bit of a boomer, but is this that Gen Z puritanism I keep hearing about? Jokes aside, I get he's saying that these tropes don't fit in a Mario game, not that they shouldn't be in a kid's game, although one of his examples earlier was a satirical crime syndicate that's mostly comedic, so I am a bit hesitant on that, but I still don't think his point is as solid as he believes. Ignoring my previous point about Mario getting creative again recently, this is a spin-off of the Mario mainline series. If anything, it should be allowed to experiment and try things that don't usually fit in Mario. That way, the spin-off can stand on its own legs and people will have an incentive to try it out. If it just has the same plot, tropes, and ideas as the mainline series, it would get stale quickly since the mainline series is already doing the same thing, possibly better. As a famous Catholic monk once said with all of his wisdom,
making the same game over and over and over and over would get bland after a while.
While the reason he gave that line was wrong, the line itself isn't depending on the situation, as I pointed out in my last video.
Sticker Star's gameplay is a huge departure from Paper Mario 64 and the Thousand-Year Door, but again, in my opinion, it was a necessary one for the series to continue to live in the competitive gaming market. Those two games were just traditional RPGs, which set insanely high...
Oh my god, why are you still going on about this? Move on to the topic of the video already!
Which set insanely high expectations because the genre is already oversaturated. Why would I, as a customer, be excited for a Mario RPG if it doesn't offer anything new and isn't as well designed as bigger RPGs like Final Fantasy?
Maybe because it's not trying to be Final Fantasy. It's trying to be a lighthearted Mario RPG that anyone can pick up and play while still trying to keep a unique world and engaging story with some tense moments so it still feels like an RPG. It honestly astounds me how you thought this point was such an amazing gotcha that you had to bring it up on 3 separate occasions. Also, you keep talking about the stiff competition, as if this isn't Nintendo we're talking about, who's largely just done whatever they felt like and hasn't cared about competition since Sega dropped out of the console market.
Your job as Mario is to explore this handcrafted world, collecting as many stickers as possible. The collectathon aspect is already a fresh idea, but unlike traditional collectathons like Banjo-Kazooie, these collectibles actually serve a gameplay function. In fact, stickers are both your main collectible and your only means of attacking. When you encounter an enemy, the game transitions into a turn-based battle. However, instead of fights being dictated by grinding and leveling up, they're determined by your inventory, what you've collected up to that point, and your problem-solving skills. This shift in battle design makes every encounter a strategic puzzle, rather than just another RPG skirmish. The more you explore Sticker Star's papercraft world, the more you're rewarded with powerful stickers that can help you take down enemies more efficiently. But even if you have the best stickers in the game, you can't just select them at random and expect to win. You need to think strategically about which sticker to use and how it affects different enemies. For example, if a Goomba is wearing a spiky hat, using a jump sticker wouldn't be a good idea. If a Koopa is flying high in the air, a hammer sticker, designed for ground attacks, won't reach it. This design keeps combat engaging, even against smaller foes, because you can't just mash A to win like in traditional turn-based RPGs.
Wow, you can't jump on spiky enemies or hammer flying enemies? I mean, it's not like that same concept didn't appear in the older Paper Mario games too. Some enemies have extra defense, so they need to be flipped over. Some enemies you can't even get close to without taking damage, so you need an item or special badge to damage them. Some enemies cling to the ceiling, so you need to find a way to get them down. Are we seriously going to take basic strategizing and enemy behavior and act like Sticker Star invented it when the series has done this since the very beginning? Also, that comment at the end about mashing A to win in traditional RPGs. Yeah, I'm starting to wonder if you're being obtuse on purpose.
Another aspect I love about the battle system is its simplicity. Even though it's turn-based, there are no complicated numbers. Since Mario is a family-friendly franchise, avoiding the complex stats and damage calculations seen in other RPGs is actually beneficial. Instead, everything is visually communicated to the player.
Oh my, the game uses small numbers to calculate health and damage so everyone can understand it? It's almost like that was one of the main aspects from the old RPGs that differentiated them from traditional RPGs that you never once acknowledged, so you could paint them as being generic and subpar. Honestly, it's probably a good thing I made this commentary, because you're not exactly proving yourself to be a fair and balanced source on this topic.
More powerful stickers have a sparkly glow, while weaker stickers appear more disheveled. Enemies follow a similar pattern. Weaker enemies look tattered, while stronger ones have a glossy shine. This clever visual design carries over into Sticker Star's sequel, Color Splash, but with an even more creative approach. Instead of glossy stickers, the game uses color to indicate strength. The more color an enemy and/or object has, the stronger it is. Color Splash even expands on this concept with its unique health system, where an enemy's power and durability are reflected by how much color they have on their body. It's a brilliant, intuitive way of representing a health bar that I've rarely seen before, or since.
Maybe because it can be hard to follow? You literally just said how Sticker Star gives all the numbers to the player so it's easier to follow, which is a good thing. To how Sticker Star's health is determined through paint, which might be harder for younger players to follow, or could be harder for certain players to use if they're colorblind or have some issue that causes them to not see the colors correctly. I get it's supposed to just be a unique and creative way to show health, but I could see why people wouldn't like it.
The things are especially important during boss fights, which is something I absolutely love. Here's how a typical boss fight goes. You complete the dungeon, then face off with a tough boss. Even with powerful stickers or cards, defeating these bosses can be a challenge. That's where puzzle solving kicks in. You'll notice visual clues about the boss, like a Koopa standing atop a giant poppable ball or a giant Pokey standing in what looks like a baseball field, and these hints point toward a specific thing that will defeat the boss. After looking around at your surroundings, you can either flee the fight to search for the right thing, sticker, shot, card, or if you're a skilled player who's explored enough, use the exact thing you need to beat the foe in a hilariously satisfying way.
Okay, I don't want to make an argument on how easy or hard the things are to find, because that's admittedly not my forte, but you have to remember that he has said that he's played and completed Sticker Star 5 times, so I kind of expect him to know where everything is, so it does make me question if he can be a reliable source on how easy or hard this is. The thing I'm more concerned about is, doesn't a boss being near impossible to beat until you use a certain item that borderline cheeses the fight go against the concept of strategizing your battles, which you claimed was one of the main parts of the battle system? At least when Thousand Year Door used this concept for Hooktail, you could still fight the boss without the certain badge you needed. It just made the battle slightly harder, not impossible.
And if you're looking for more than just humor, these games deliver some surprisingly heartfelt moments. Take Color Splash, for example. There's the train conductor who feels lost as he faces retirement. Or Huey's self-sacrifice, where he reassures Mario he'll be fine absorbing Bowser's black paint, even though he knows it will cost him his life. In Sticker Star, Kirsty willingly transforms into a sticker to help Mario defeat Bowser, saving the day but at the cost of her own existence.
But I thought you said that these plot points involving death were too adult for a Mario game. Yes, I know both of them survive, but you don't indicate that, and on the surface it makes you look like a hypocrite for even mentioning it earlier. Even in the older games, I can't explicitly remember an instance where a character that wasn't the final boss dies on screen in this fashion and doesn't either come back to life or is indicated that they're still alive but just went on to live a new life. So this just looks like another point you exaggerated to make the older games look worse.
I actually plan on making a video titled How Paper Mario Fans Are Ruining Paper Mario. But to summarize my point, the most vocal Paper Mario fans don't necessarily represent the majority. They're incredibly loud about what they want, but what they want isn't what Paper Mario actually is. They demand overly dramatic, almost adult-tier storytelling with papercraft characters who, oddly enough, aren't even allowed to acknowledge that they're made of paper. I see it as blind nostalgia.
Oh no, it's that foreshadowing I mentioned far earlier! My guy, you claim that Sticker Star was your first Paper Mario game, admitted to having a nostalgia bias for the game, liked it enough to play and complete it 5 times, and have spent a chunk of this video protecting its honor way harder than I've seen any classic Paper Mario fans do to their games while not acknowledging any of the game's shortcomings. You have no room to claim anyone else is blinded by nostalgia.
But here's the thing. Those vocal fans aren't the only ones who love the series. Don't believe me? Take a guess. What's the best-selling Paper Mario game? The Thousand-Year Door? Maybe Super Paper Mario? Nope. It's Sticker Star, the so-called worst Paper Mario game. And that proves my point.
So that's wrong. That's very wrong. Not even the second best-selling. That goes to Origami King. It's bad enough that you attributed positive aspects from the older games to Sticker Star without acknowledging the former, but now you're outright falsifying actual documented numbers. Outstanding. If this was an honest mistake, cool, whatever. But he's been called out on this both in his comment section and the Reddit thread of this video more than once, which gives me the impression that he doesn't care to attempt to rectify that he's aware of this mistake. So much for giving the cold hard truth, am I right? Speaking of which, before I go on, I want to take a brief intermission to look at his channel description because, honest to God, it's one of the most self-pretentious things I've seen in a while.
Cynical gamer, cutting through the hype with cold hard truth.
Considering we just saw you give outright incorrect information with such pompous naivety, I'm pressing X to doubt.
No nonsense, no bandwagoning.
I don't know, this video has been filled with a lot of nonsense, and I don't necessarily mean the funny and entertaining nonsense. And I've seen people try and fail to defend Sticker Star multiple times because they fall into the same traps of having to bring up and shoot down the older games to try to bolster their favorite game, and they come up with flimsy reasons why Sticker Star is good. So yeah, I'd argue you're bandwagoning in some way too.
Just the correct takes on video games. The cynical_gamer tells it like it is, reviewing games based on what they are, not what the internet says they should be.
So basically, you're upset that others like different games than you, so you're gonna make this their problem. I've been around the gaming sphere long enough, I know how this works. Also, can we please leave the sardonic, know-it-all, facts over feelings gamer shtick back in 2013? Thank you.
There are fans of Sticker Star and Color Splash. They're just not as loud as the small, but extremely vocal online minority. By constantly demanding that Nintendo cater to their specific vision of Paper Mario, these fans are ignoring what the larger, more casual audience actually enjoys.
Well, you're definitely not a part of that casual audience since you made a half-hour video defending Paper Mario's changes, so you really can't speak for those people. Also, Paper Mario and Mario RPGs in themselves are largely a niche subsection of the Mario fandom, and that includes the modern Paper Mario games, so I really don't know if you can bring casual players here at all. Generally, that audience focuses toward the mainline series, Mario Party, Mario Kart, and the sports games because they're easier to pick up and play. I'm not saying that a casual fan won't play these games, but if they do, it's likely because it's a Mario game, and they're not going to fret over the RPG or action-adventure labels like you or I might. That's literally the point of a casual or core audience.
As for the Origami King, I still think it's better than the first 3 games, but it falls short of Sticker Star and Color Splash. It tries to bring back a darker story, this time about Toad genocide of all things, while also removing key mechanics like the Thing puzzles. The Things still exist, but only as boss fights, rather than being used creatively for problem solving. And in my opinion, That takes away a lot of what made the modern games so engaging.
Oh, I see. So when the older fans believe that Sticker Star and Color Splash took away what they viewed as what made the series good and dumbed down the rest, they're nostalgia blind, can't form their own opinions, and need to learn to appreciate the newer games. But when Origami King reinvents the wheel again and brings back some of the aspects that those people loved, suddenly it's a problem. Nope, not going there. I'm done. I can't do this anymore. Move on to the final thoughts. I'm sorry, but this just wasn't good. I want to say I'm flabbergasted, but I'm honestly not. I've been around the Paper Mario community for a while, and the talking points and thought processes when it comes to people talking about their favorite games are so damn predictable that I knew someone would eventually make a video like this. But back to the actual video, what can I say? You clearly do have a bias that you had no intention of ditching for an actual discussion. You barely attempt to understand the appeal of the older games so you can write them off as just subpar RPGs, then attempt to butter up Sticker Star, even attributing positive aspects, such as certain battle mechanics, to the most bare-bones writing tropes that existed from the very beginning solely to Sticker Star. Speaking of which, I didn't touch on this much in the actual video, but you really don't add anything unique to the discussion of Sticker Star. You talk about the story, or lack thereof, the battle mechanics, and the things, all aspects people who have criticized the game have shown distaste of, but instead of following suit, you just say, "It's good actually," without much else. Good job, you just repeated what they hated right back to them. That'll show them. Moving on, there's this weird sense of superiority that shows up constantly. I get you're supposed to be super serious and only tell facts, but dude, it really shouldn't be that serious. First, there's the arbitrary criticism of how original characters in Paper Mario are a missed opportunity based on a criteria that only exists to you and barely anyone else, and how modern Paper Mario fixes this when, really, the character selection isn't all that impressive in comparison, to be honest. Then there's the sense of antagonization towards anyone you interpret as against you, such as telling people that the world of Mario isn't for them for the crime of expecting a bit of creativity that goes beyond the bare minimum, or painting classic Paper Mario fans as people who need Chugga Conroy to form opinions for them, or are blinded by nostalgia for being critical of the newer games removing beloved aspects or dumbing down the ones still in game. And before I hear something like, "A 1,000-Year Door fan was mean to me on GameFAQs 12 years ago, so I'm justified in treating them that way," I could care less. Two wrongs don't make a right, and again, the point of this video was supposed to make people appreciate the modern Paper Mario games. Talking down to them and treating them like Neanderthals isn't going to help that happen. I get some people go a little too far with the Sticker Star hate wagon, but shit like this isn't doing anything but making it worse. Finally, and maybe this is me overstepping my boundary, but this video feels like it comes from a sense of insecurity that your favorite Paper Mario game is often seen as the worst one, while games that you're averse to are more beloved and higher regarded, so you're taking that annoyance out in video form. Throughout the video, you keep stressing the same hand-fisted opinions as if saying them enough will get your point across. You think the older games are generic. You'd rather play Final Fantasy. You think Super Paper Mario is a literal abomination for just as much existing. You think original characters and dark storylines are a huge sin to the almighty Miyamoto's 10 Commandments, and likely more that I'm forgetting. Then other concerning points include claiming Sticker Star is the best-selling game, which one Google search proves you wrong, and trying to use the casual audience as proof that your favorite games are the more popular ones, when in reality that doesn't prove anything, especially since Paper Mario is a series where the sales fluctuate each game anyway. It just comes off as some bizarre coping mechanism more than anything else. Now I want to repeat, there is nothing wrong with you liking Sticker Star, and there is nothing wrong with you preferring it and Color Splash over the older games. But sometimes the only justification you need is that you have a preference and the more popular choice just isn't for you. That's it. You don't need to treat people with the opposing opinion like they're dumb, or try to challenge them with nonsensical arguments or takes, or act like you somehow have a more enlightened viewpoint. That just comes off as you being spiteful and trying to pick a fight because others don't think the same way you do. Okay, please, nobody else make a Paper Mario video like this. I really, genuinely do not feel like making another one of these. Thanks.